Welcome! In this video, we're going to be exploring the Tel Dan Stele, which comes from Aram Damascus and was written by their king, Hazael. In the inscription, Hazael boasts about killing the king of Israel, Jehoram, and also killing the king of Judah, Ahaziah. Now, one of the reasons why the Tel Dan Stele is so significant is because it is our first archaeological artifact that mentions both the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah. In contrast, our earlier artifacts like the Kirk monolith and Mesha Stele only mention the northern kingdom of Israel. Refer to my previous videos to learn more about them. Now, the real reason why the Tel Dan Stele is so famous is because when Hazael is describing Ahaziah, the king of Judah, he refers to him as, quote, the king of the house of David, end quote. And this is our very first extra-biblical reference to David. Writing on the Tel Dan Stele, one author writes the following, quote, "This is the first time that any reference to the royal name David or House of David has been found in any inscriptions or non-biblical literature," end quote. And in fact, people were so excited about finding the name David on this stele that when they first discovered it, someone actually highlighted the letters of David in white. And you can actually still see this on the monument today. Alright, it's time to now read the stele for ourselves, remembering that King Hazael of Aram Damascus wrote this inscription. But before we do so, can you please make sure that you hit that like button, leave me a comment, and subscribe. These things really do help the channel grow. Alright, let's now read the Tel Dan inscription for ourselves, remembering that it's very fragmentary in places. It begins, quote, "My father went up against him in war at... and my father lay down and he went to his fathers. Now the king of Israel had gone formerly into the land of my father, but then as for me, Hadad made me king. And Hadad went before me, and I departed from the seven. My kingdom and I killed 70 kings who harnessed thousands of chariots and thousands of horsemen." Now this is where the inscription gets interesting, so let's bring up our map as well. The inscription continues to read, quote, "I killed Jehoram, son of Ahab, king of Israel, and I killed Ahaziah, son of Jehoram, king of the house of David, and I made their towns into ruins and turned," end quote. So as you can see, Hazael is boasting about killing the king of Israel and killing the king of Judah. And as you can also see, the Tel Dan Stele gives our very first reference to David from outside the Bible. Now, let's remember, David dates to about 1000 BC, but the Tel Dan Stele dates to about 840 BC. So it is by no means contemporary with David. Rather, the Tel Dan Stele was written about 150 years after David. So when Hazael is boasting about killing Ahaziah, who is from the house of David, David is long in the past. Ahaziah is his great-great-great-great-grandson. So while the Tel Dan Stele provides us some evidence that David existed, it is still very far removed from the time of David himself. What the Tel Dan Stele really confirms for us is that when foreign kings like Hazael looked at the kings of Judah, they viewed them as descendants of David. As one author notes, quote, "The evidence from the Tel Dan inscription makes clear that about a century and a half after he assumedly lived, David was seen as the eponymous ancestor of the royal lineage of Judah, even from an outsider perspective," end quote. Now, let me interject here for a moment. I feel there is so much unfounded skepticism for the Bible, such as people doubting whether David existed or not, that defenders of the Bible are always searching for evidence outside the Bible, like the Tel Dan inscription, to prove what we already know. The real evidence for David's existence is found in the books of Samuel and Kings. These are clearly not works of fiction, but very good evidence that David was historical. This point is made very persuasively by Joel Baden, who was from Yale, in his book, The Historical David. So if someone asks you for evidence that David existed, say the books of Samuel and Kings, which are good history, the Tel Dan Stele simply confirms what we already knew. Now, what makes the Tel Dan Stele so fascinating is not issues about whether David existed or not, but rather comparing what we read in this inscription with what we have in the Bible, because they both narrate the same event. So let's compare them. The Tel Dan Stele tells us that Hazael killed Jehoram of Israel and also Ahaziah of Judah. But for our purposes, the only interesting part is that it says Hazael killed Jehoram of Israel. Because in comparison, the Bible in 2 Kings 8-9 says that Jehu killed Jehoram. So, do we have a contradiction on our hands? Well, I'm going to be arguing that we do not. Rather, a proper reading of 2 Kings 8 to 9 tells us that Jehu and Hazael were in fact working together to kill Jehoram, and that the prophet Elisha also helped them. Thus, we have a conspiracy between Jehu, Elisha, and Hazael to overthrow the government of Jehoram. This is what makes the Tel Dan inscription so fascinating. And this is what we're going to be exploring in our next video. So please make sure you hit the like button, leave me a comment, and subscribe, and turn on the bell notification so you're ready for my next video. Also, a huge thank you to all of my patrons who truly keep this channel going. Please consider becoming a patron if you believe in the goal of this channel, which is to create a library of videos that objectively and respectfully analyze the Bible. And finally, once again, make sure you've hit subscribed so you're ready for our next video in which we'll be comparing 2 Kings 8 to 9 with the Tel Dan inscription. Thank you for watching until the end, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.